Welcome to Open Doors, where decisions like doors lead to places. We have Lakedra today. How are you doing?
I am awesome. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Okay, it's a joy. We're going to get right into the subject matter. We're talking about boundaries in
Yes.
relationships.
Oh
And so,
God.
since I know you're so well versed on different types of relationships, I'm going to let you have the ball. And which type of relationship would you like to discuss boundaries concerning?
So again, boundaries I think apply across the board. I think a boundary, when you talk about boundaries, I don't think you apply them just to a relationship. It's about who you are and what works for you. So you have to set the boundaries that work good for your life, and then you apply them to the relationships accordingly. And I think a lot of times people, of course, you extend grace to people accordingly based on the relationships, but the boundaries should still be the same. You expect people to respect you. You expect people to accept your no as well as they do your yes. The same enthusiasm that you accept my yes, I need you to be just as respectful and enthusiastic with my no, because there's a reason behind it. And I don't have to explain that to you, because no is a complete sentence, as we all know. But I think that boundaries are important for you. You put boundaries in place for you, not so much for the other person, because I think what happens is that when you have boundaries, you know that no matter who it is, no matter what the relationship is, these boundaries are in place for a reason, and these boundaries are to be respected. Because if you begin to bend, if you begin to waver, then you'll start making excuses no matter who it is. And then the boundaries will go out the door. Because once you bend on a boundary or once you go back on something, you lose credibility. And then that individual won't take you as serious. And that individual won't think that you mean what you say. And they'll think you just, oh, she just talking. She just mad today. She had a bad day. She really didn't mean it. And so your boundaries have to be in place, no matter if you're having a good day, if you're having a bad day. And people, when you are stern and stick to your boundaries, people will begin to respect it, and they'll know, okay, that's not an area to cross with her. So
Okay. So, what are some steps that you utilize to establish boundaries?
it took a while,
Okay.
for me, because I think I had the disease to please.
Hmm.
So I didn't have boundaries in place, and I didn't realize, and I think I used to believe that boundaries meant that I was being unkind, that I
Hmm.
wasn't being flexible, that
Hmm.
I wasn't being approachable, that people would reject me or they wouldn't want me in their space. And so I used to also think that boundaries meant people would think I would be hard to deal with. When in actuality, by me not setting boundaries, it gave people the red light or the green light to disrespect me. It gave them the green light to say what they wanted to say to me. It gave them the green light to not respect my space. And so that was something that I had to come to realization with over a long period of time. So one of the things is that I became clear to myself about what I needed in
Hmm.
order to exist in a healthy relationship. It wasn't even so much about what they needed, but it was about what I needed to be a part of a relationship. And once I realized that I wanted to please people at my own expense, and that didn't work for me, I stopped doing that. Once I realized that things that I was allowing to take place at the end of the day made me unhappy. It put me in a place of sadness. Once I realized those things, that letting them cross those boundaries is not working well for me. It made me do things morally sometimes that I wouldn't have even done. But because I didn't have those boundaries in place. And the one thing I believe, you set boundaries from the onset. And when you do that, then the person knows exactly where you're coming from, what you expect, and then they can make a decision about whether or not they want to be in relationship with you, whether or not they want to be a part of your life. And if they don't, that's really okay. It really is. It's okay.
Your revelations are very refreshing in the sense that when I heard you say You didn't always have the boundary lines. I said, okay, we got some honesty going. Not that you're dishonest, but I'm saying
Right.
for the
No, no,
sake
no.
of those who don't know you.
Right.
And then when you began to say, I like to please people,
Mm-hmm.
and even though you're saying these things, I don't have pictures as far as your history in my mind, but I said, oh, she's coming with the process. Not just some people are like, yeah, I have these boundaries and this is this and this is this and this is what I won't tolerate it. Okay, that's all well and good, but tell me the story how you got to that point, because there's a whole lot of people who they either think they're at that point. And what I mean by that is one time God communicated to me. He says, you think that you are being holy,
Hmm.
but you really ain't dealt with some stuff, because
Mm-hmm.
I had boundaries. I had parameters around myself that when I held conversations with the opposite sex, I thought as a godly man, I'm not going to say this. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to stay too long. I'm not going to grin. I'm not going to laugh. I'm just going to do what I need to do to serve them as God has equipped me to serve them. And
Right.
so I did this for a number of years. And then one day God was just like, just because you're not doing anything wrong, that doesn't mean that you're doing something right. And
Right.
so when you said that about how you went through the process of realizing that you like to please people, and then when that didn't work,
Mm-hmm.
you changed. I went through the process of, why are all these people asking me? I think that I'm a loving, mature Christian. And why are all these people asking me, Oliver, you help all of us men,
Mm-hmm.
but the women, you don't have much to say. And I used to say, and I wasn't being fly, but I would share with them. I said, well, you guys want to talk to them, go talk to them. They're gonna be all right.
Right.
I'm sure they're not gonna be lacking any spiritual counsel or advice from a man, as
Right.
long as all you fellas are telling me. But I did not realize it took quite some time. And one guy, he approached me and he said this to me. He said, look, man, he said, I watch you. He said, you do an excellent job in church. He said, but sometimes people want to talk to you. And he was really speaking about women. He said, they want to talk to you because when you're ministering with them, whether I'm just complimenting them, getting them something, whether it
Mm-hmm.
be water or whether I'm opening up the door, or whether I opened up the service. And when he was speaking to me, I'm like, what you mean? Because I'm thinking he in some game. And he was like,
Right.
man, delay for a minute sometimes. And I'm like, bro, I really don't want to delay. I said, I just want to be about God's business. And he said, so you saying God doesn't have business with women? I said, no, God has plenty of business with women, but I'm not going to jockey in a line of men to meet them. And he says, well, what if God has called you? Because he say the vibe that I get from you or the vibe that some of them might get from you, it might be different. And so I'm just sharing that to let you know my story, that we say that we've gone through some things to establish some boundaries. And for myself, I'm still establishing boundaries, as well as I'm sure you are. And
Mm-hmm.
just wanted to be transparent along with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's funny you talk about, oh, I don't want to, I'll minister to the men, but I won't minister to the women. And the one thing and what I heard is that boundaries is not always about, oh, I'm gonna stay away from the women, or as a woman, I'm gonna stay away from the man. Boundaries, because a lot of people, there's a difference between boundaries and walls. There's a
Amen.
difference. You can put up a wall because you don't want to get hurt. You can put up a wall because I don't want people to think that I'm trying to be the fly brother that's flirting with all the sisters, or that I am that sister that's trying to flirt with all the men. So you put up a wall and you don't allow people to penetrate. You don't allow things that God is trying to use to serve you or to help you to get through, because you can't get through the wall. But the boundary says, I am here, I'm accessible, and I'm available. However, you have to respect the space that I've put up. And you can, with the boundary, you can still get to me. It's just that there's an order that I'm expecting, because I've gone through some things in my life. I've set some things in order that are working for me. And if I allow you to go beyond that boundary, cross that line, then that may set me back. But if I put up the wall, I'm not even allowing you to get to me, to even see if I've really been delivered like I think I have, or for me to even see if I am real, if the boundary is really in place and I've really come to a place where I've put the boundaries in place for real, or if the wall is just up and I've created this wall where people are like, I don't even want to deal with her. It's great. Because that's what people do. Some people put up a wall to where people stay away from them. When you put up boundaries, there means that I've set a level of expectations to be in relationship with me. It doesn't mean that you can't. It just means that there are certain things that are in place in my life for me that you can't cross that. You can't disrespect me. You can't talk to me talking out loud and cursing and talking crazy to me. You can't expect me if you want, like my grandfather used to always say, my uncle, if anybody wants to borrow his money, he has the right to ask you what it's for. And some people would think, well, if you're going to give it to me, you're going to give it to me. Well, that's a part of the boundary that he set. If you want my money, I have the right to ask you what it's for. And if you don't want to tell me, that's also your right, but then you don't get it. So people who don't want to deal with that, it's not that he doesn't want you to ask. He to put up a wall where you can't ask. You still have access. But part of that is we got to have a conversation about why you keep wanting to borrow my money. And so even with me, if when I was, out dating, I would meet a man when I was younger and he would call me baby. And look, on the first date, want to hold my hand on the first date. I'm thinking that's cute. I'm like, oh girl, he calling me baby girl. When that's crazy. And I thought that was cute. But see, now you have to earn those type of things as I've matured. So that's about no. My name is Lakedra. And if that doesn't work for you, you can call me Miss Blaylock, but you cannot call me baby girl. You can't call me shorty. So there are just certain boundaries that I put in place, and then some people will say, well, you too saved. It has nothing to do with just me being saved, but it has everything to do with the level of respect and the value that I put on myself and knowing who I am, believing the word that God says about me and the things that the things that I've instituted for my own life. And if you can't accept that, that's okay. And that's at work, that's in my relationship that's platonic, that's in relationships that I may be intimate relationships, that may be even relationships with my boys. There are boundaries because you have to set boundaries in order for any relationship to be healthy. Because if there's not boundaries in place, then people will run amok and then they're going to run you down. And when they run you down, they're going to run over you. And after they run over you, you're going to run out and then they're going to run on to the next person. And you're not going to have any more to give because you didn't put boundaries in place.
Touching on what you said about the difference between boundaries and walls, how did you come to that revelation?
Because when I
was real.
Yeah. When I was raised by my great grandparents because my parents were young. And when my great grandmother died, I thought that my world was over, literally. That was like the worst pain I think I'd ever felt in my entire life. And so the people that I thought should have been there for me weren't. And so that was a very hurting feeling because they understood the depth of the relationship I had with her. And so at that point, I'm not going to depend on anybody. I'm going to take care of myself. I don't want to get close to anybody because people are not there for you as much as I've been there for people, as much as my grandmother's been there for people, and they're leaving me out here on this ledge by myself. So what I did, I made up in my mind that I was a one-man show. I don't need you. I'm going to work this. I'm going to do my thing, and I'm going to show you who I am and how I got here without you. And so people would try to come and help me. Oh, that's okay. I got it. People would try to come and give things to me. Oh, no, I got it. And I was living in a house with no gas and hardly any food. And so walls will cause you to miss blessings that God has set up for you. Boundaries will bring people to you. And if it's not coming if the motive is not pure, and if they are not coming for the right reasons, you will notice it, but the boundaries will still give them access to you. But walls won't even give them access. They're like, I don't even want to be bothered with her. And you will let it be known. See, with walls, I even came into a room with the wall.
Mm-hmm.
I walked into the room like, I don't want to be bothered. I'm here because I have to be. I don't need you talking to me. I don't need a whole lot of conversation from you. I'm just here to complete a task, whether it was at work or whether it was at church. I'm just here to complete a task and go back to my safe space. And so walls prevent people from having access. Boundaries let people know you can still have access, but even with the access, if it's not right, I'm gonna cut it off. Yeah.
I received that. I really think you need to write a book about boundaries and walls. A
No.
short book. I'm just sharing with you. I'm not only listening, I'm taking it in. And matter of fact, when the interview, show, whatever we're gonna call it, is over, I'm gonna look back on that because I don't want to point the finger. So I'm gonna say I had that confused. Once again, I thought I had boundaries in place because I go from living wild till I'm saved. And there's nobody really to explain what that looks like in different areas where I've fallen short in the past.
Exactly.
So the Lord ministered, but I like the way you explained it. But when he ministered that to me, I like a challenge. And I'm not saying I like a challenge because I'm all that. So when God put that out there, I'm not, okay, God, I can take it. I'm not foolish like that. But I was like, I don't think that I have a problem. But you're saying that my conduct lines up with what you're stating, walls versus boundaries. And so what I did is brick by brick, I went on ahead and pulled it down.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of feedback about that.
Yeah.
Because gentlemen who had known me for years or know me right now, they like, say, bro, they say, I know you getting out there. I said, no, I'm not getting out there, but no, sir. And what they mean by that, no, I'm walking in sanctification. If you need it broke down, what that mean, I'm doing the best I can in this world to live according to the Bible. And I'm gonna leave it just like that. But it also opened up some friendships that I would not have had because in my mind, I'm just like, for lack of better words, they okay. Yeah. You know, I'm gonna get married and I'm gonna be okay, but let everybody else deal with women. And it wasn't that I had a problem with them. It just appeared to me that so many times men who should be in women's lives ministering and helping them, they fall short because they caught up.
Oh God.
And the women who I see should be in some men's lives, not as partners. I'm saying partners as far as being intimate, being in love with one another. But God sent you there to show that man something. They fall short. And so in my mind, that was just all jumbled up. And I'm like, man, I'm gonna let somebody else solve that problem. And then God just ministered to me. It's like, you know, you speaking a good speech, meaning you're saying you're for the gospel and you're for relationships. But if you can't handle a relationship with a woman that is platonic, that is your friend, then you need to look in the mirror. And so my challenge was, I'm not going to go put it to the test, but I told the Lord, I'm going to be available. And he told me this, he said, can I trust you? You know, when God talks to you, for me, I'm going to pause up because I know it's like Moses at the burning bush. So he's like, can I trust you with my daughters? And I thought about it and what I was thinking, because I'm a man. And so I can believe the best of myself in my mind, but with a fire get lit, all kind of stuff come out. I'm not just talking about me personally, I'm saying people, period. You don't know that lumber is laying down there. When it get lit, it's burning. And so I was like, Lord, you can trust me with your daughters only if you help me.
And to me, that is so honest.
Well, because when God talks, I'm saying in my heart, for all those who are listening, I didn't hear a voice in the air, but when the Lord is really asking and he knows what's in your heart. And I'm going to say for me, I don't think I know everything about myself. I trust God to tell me things that I don't know, to help me get better, to deliver me from some blind spots. So that particular question, I was like, And when I said that a few weeks ago, I was getting a headache because I was like, I have boundaries in place on this social media. I have boundaries in place. And so my boundaries kept being tested by the opposite sex. And I'm like, this don't make no sense. But I'm just trying to help some people. I'm not trying to hook up. I'm not trying to promote any agenda. I'm just, hey, I'm here to help, whether that's you listening to interviews like this or whether you see something from the word of God. And God reminded me, because I was like, man, I'm tired of it. Plus I'm human.
Absolutely.
And so when I say I'm human, okay, you steady knocking at the door and I'm not answering the door, but I don't feel like the door need to be knocked at that much.
Okay.
I get tired sometimes, but okay, praise God. He has kept me. Spo, he reminded me of that. He said, can I trust you with my daughters? And I said, yes, Lord, with your help and only your help. And so he let me know, I'm helping you. That's why they knocking. The same thing that you said was a problem. I used to be like that in the streets. I'll say some people need a good example. And I'm not saying a good example in the streets, but I'm saying some people to do wrong, I came to understand they just need an example. And when they see an example, they're going to take off. I know that about walking in righteousness.
Right.
And so some people need an example. And he's like, okay, if you're not going to take advantage of the situation, if you're going to just say what I want you to say, then why wouldn't I allow different people to come into your sphere?
Right.
And I said, okay, I'm just checking in. I'm human. I have no excuse, but I needed to be reminded of that just to know that I can trust myself.
Right.
Because we all have good intentions. That's not an accusation, but we all have good intentions, but history in the Bible, as well as history right now, meaning yesterday. All kind of people think good intentions, but the outcome is tragic.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. The one thing too, you don't know that you've been completely delivered until you've been tested. You don't know that the boundary that you put in place is really working. See, you don't know that it's working because people don't come and test you. You know that it's working and you meant what you said when they come and test you. And you're like, no, I'm not doing that. You're like, yes, but like I said, not before 10. So that's the thing. You said, yes, Lord, but only with your help. And so when those things happen, it just shows you that that's what you meant. Yes, Lord, I can do this and you can trust me, but I'm gonna need you to help me. My grandmother used to always say, the Holy Ghost is a keeper. And then she said, but that's only if you want to be kept. And so you want to be kept. You want to do the right thing. It doesn't mean that the test won't come. It doesn't mean that people won't try to push your boundaries. It doesn't mean that they won't try you. But if you mean what you say and you allow the Lord to help you, you will see that you have been delivered from whatever that thing is, or that the boundary that you set in place, that you meant it, that it works. And then you'll see that people not going to reject you. People won't get upset. And if they do, they won't stay mad. I think a lot of the things we build up in our own mind, reasons why not to put those things in place, because we're dealing with so many of our own insecurities. We're dealing with rejection. We're dealing with self-doubt. We're dealing with those things. And so we've created a narrative in our mind that if we do this, then we're going to have to experience the rejection. We're going to have to experience the fear, the abandonment, the letdown, the disappointment. And so we say it's easier to not put the boundary in place and deal with those things, because I know what those things feel like. And I've learned, made it through it before, I can do it again. But I mean, when it feels good when you put a boundary, boundaries in
Okay.
place.
Well, I greatly appreciate your insight. Is there anything else that you'd like to speak about this morning?
Well, actually, I just thank you for the opportunity. I thank you for, allowing me to share this platform or your platform with you. And I just want everybody to know that boundaries are not a bad thing, but I believe they're necessary. They're necessary not just for people that you interact with, but they're necessary for us. Because if I didn't have boundaries in place, I'll go farther than I wanted to go, do more than I wanted to do, stay longer than I wanted to stay, and at the end of it, be upset and frustrated with myself. And so the boundaries that I put in place are for me to be healthy, not just for Lakedra, but for me to be healthy when I engage in relationship with others. Because then I won't be so you ask me to you say, well, Sister Blaylock, can you come to Austin and help me with this outreach? Sure, Brother Sean, I have these things to do, but I'll be there. And then when I get there, I have an attitude, and you're thinking, well, what's wrong with her? That's because I've extended myself outside of the boundary. Because, on the way you say stop and pick up two sisters in Lockhart, I need y'all to stop and go to the grocery store and pick up some things we need for the outreach.
Mm-hmm.
When I could have said, no, I can't do that, but I will be there. But instead, I don't say, no, I can't do that. And it's our fear of rejection our fear of not wanting people to think a certain way about us because we're not confident and not standing in the confidence that God has given us, or the boldness. And we think that a lot of people have been made to think that boundaries are a negative thing, and they're not. Boundaries are not negative. No is definitely not negative. Those are two very healthy things to help you be in healthy relationships with not only other people, but also with yourself. So I appreciate the opportunity
Oh,
this
definitely.
morning.
It's always a pleasure. Well, that concludes Open Doors, where decisions like doors take you places. You have a lovely day.
You do the same.
This interview with Lakedra was fabulous. The insight that she provided concerning the distinction between walls and, if you don't know the other part, go back and check it out. Because this is the kind of interview that needs to not only be replayed, but it needs to be listened to carefully. But the answer was boundaries. And so that brought to mind a scripture in Matthew chapter 5, verse 37. And basically what it says is, let your yes be yes and your no be no. And anything more is of the devil. And what that means to me in 2021 is that sometimes we as humans find ourselves feeling like we need to overcompensate or over answer concerning relationships. Simply put, some single people aren't comfortable just telling people who they're holding a conversation with, and it comes up. They're not comfortable just, yeah, I'm single. They feel like they have to provide an answer. Well, I'm single and I want to be, or I'm single but I'm happy, or I'm single and I'm whole, instead of just making a statement. I'm single. It would be the equivalent of me if someone's like, "What race are you? Are you African American? Are you Jamaican? Are you African?" I say, "Okay, I'm black or I'm African American," and just go on. I don't make an excuse. And so we also have some married people who, when you ask them about their marriage, they feel like they have to overcompensate and say, "Oh, I'm happily married. I'm happily married. I'm not saying I'm not happily married." And it's like, let your yes be yes and your no be no. When you give answers to people, I'm not saying that some answers don't need a explanation, but I'm saying, is the explanation coming from a place where you feel inadequate, where you feel shame, where you feel embarrassment? Or is it just an answer and however they take it, that's how they take it, but you're more than able to speak comfortably on a subject? When in relationships, whether it's friendships or co-workers or even love one towards another, my encouragement to you is examine whether or not you're really healthy. Does everything require everybody to think the best about you? What I'm saying, sometimes there's going to be some comments that come out of your mouth, that come out of my mouth, that we can look bad, but we don't need to explain, because what we needed to say, we said it. And no matter how much we try to explain it, people are going to take it exactly how they're going to take it. And so when Lakeisha was saying that when there are walls put up, that cuts off access. But when boundaries are put in place, that still provides access, but there's some stipulations to that access. I was like, man, that's some good stuff. And I even encourage you need to write a book about that. I know personally, I found myself at times when I'm giving an answer about something, finding myself, I need to explain or I need to say more so it doesn't look so bad. And when that scripture says, let your yes be yes and your no be no, I don't need to feel that way. And if you find yourself in a place like I found myself and still sometimes find myself thinking that because of an inadequacy, or I might look bad if I just leave it hanging like that, rather than looking for people to understand, I look more into myself to say why and what do I need to do in me to put myself in a position to where not only am I confident in my comments all the time, but I'm affirmed that I've said enough by the mere fact that it was just the honest truth said in a loving manner that came out of my mouth. Are you comfortable with letting your answers to various people's questions be all that you state? Or do you feel it necessary? Do you